Now joined by the associate head basketball coach at Baylor men's basketball, great friend of the show, and John Jakus. John, thank you for your time with Paul and Craig and David Smoke. So what is the mentality in the Big 12? You blink, you burp, you're going to get in a 3-game losing streak. You guys have been there. Now you're in a 2-game losing streak. What is the mentality of a long, long week in Kansas, or a long weekend in Kansas with your team so far when you've gotten back from back to Waco?
Yeah, one, I want to say thanks for having me, and thanks for all you do for us. And
you're welcome.
I would say the second thing is I don't remember Kansas or Kansas State right now. You got a long memory. If you struggle with sensitivity, if you care what people think about you, if you don't believe in the culture of joy or Scott's process, if you don't believe that you're working for a Hall of Famer and that our players have the 3rd most quad 1 wins in the country, have gone through the 2nd hardest schedule in the country, if you go by strength of schedule, and would be a 2 seed right now, 3 at the worst. So we're one of the 8 to 12 best resumes in college basketball. And if you let a loss in our league, which is going to happen to everybody, define you, then you're going to be in real trouble. So in some ways, it's a good opportunity to help young men be full-grown men, because you just can't care what people think, and got to believe in your own process. And in our sport's a little bit different than others. So much of it is about peaking at the end with the tournament. Mm-hmm. And I think there's some peak left in us. And if you live in the past, there's no way you're ever going to find your best in the future. So we've had to move on. The coolest thing about this week is the last 2 days, I thought our guys' overall attitude was better than I even expected. So it shows some growth, and it also shows that when we lost those 3 in a row to start the league, winning 10 of the next 11 actually taught us some things that'll carry forward, and we're hoping they'll carry forward strong with a home game. And so often a home game is what you need most in our league.
John Jakus, this segment, the Baylor Bear Hotline, brought to you by Richard Carr Motors. People you can count on. Paul?
Coach, is there part of that attitude is that you can see you've only got a few games left of the regular season, the Big 12, then the tournament, and you can see the next goals on the horizon. So it might be a little bit easier to bounce back from a couple of tough days.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody's best day in our sport is Selection Sunday. And for the 68 teams that don't make it, it's brutal. But for the 68 that do, you find this new life. And there's nothing better than watching that show and hearing your name called. And at that point, everybody's 0-0. And all the ills of February and the long months of January, February in league, and the difficulty of our league, you need a celebration almost to remind yourself that what we just went through physically and emotionally is unlike any other thing in college basketball. This might be the first time that 9 of 10 of our teams make the tournament in the same year. It's definitely the first time that 6 of our teams will be all top 4 seeds. You've never seen anything like this. So when you go through the torture test of this league, the hope of Selection Sunday and then sitting there and celebrating when you finally get there is actually really refreshing. And so we're trying to keep our guys refreshed until that moment. And, you know, I think everybody wants to confront, everyone wants to point out the wrong. There's some genius in the way Scott's done this thing for a while. And sometimes pointing out the right and having moments of joy is better than pointing out the wrong. So we're constantly, working through that balance, but I agree 100%. The hope around the corner is a real positive thing, and we're thankful that it's coming.
John, when you do that, and you do have these games left in conference and then the tournament and then the tournament, the one that counts in how people are remembered for the most part, how do you do that and yet maybe work on your rotation? Is it you tighten it up now to make the run, or you still want to kind of tweak a few things if you can, if you have the time to do so?
Yeah, we will tweak some things. I think if you're paying attention tomorrow, you might see 1 or 2 tweaks. And the thing that's unique about us is when we went through that first losing streak to 3 is that LJ had a concussion, and him and Adam weren't practicing together. And then once we kind of found some practice days, we were able to fix some things and then go on that run of 10 of 11. We've had 2 good practice days this week. And even as John has returned, there's a storybook burst of energy for that first home game. But then you have to wrinkle through what your rotations are going to be. And now that the league saw that John can make a three and they adjust their scouting reports, there's this next iteration of Baylor basketball that we've got to figure out. And I think we're constantly going to be hammering through that as a group. And the next 3 games, they're gifts. You're going to find out real quick how good you are. Every single time you step on the floor, if you're selfish or thinking about yourself, you're going to be exposed. If you're tired, you're going to get run out the gym. And those are some things that are real positives. So you can embrace it and face it head on, or you can run from it. And the reality is one way or another, tomorrow afternoon, we're playing Texas. They're an unbelievable team this year, extremely old. A lot of guys on their team have been in college 5 or 6 years. They're being blessed by this COVID rule as much as anybody in the country. And if we don't show up, we're going to learn a lesson. But we're hoping that the lessons we learned over this past 5-day, 2-game road trip end up being a positive for us.
I like how you can say extremely old when they're 23, Sean. But but it is a gap
compared to us.
Yeah.
Compared to me and you, no, they're not old.
Yeah.
But for college basketball, they're definitely old. But I think their starting lineup is older than the Thunder's starting lineup.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and it is a gap, though. Like when you talk about you've got a couple of guys that might be 19 or 20, and then you're 23, that is maybe the most exponential jump you make in your life from like 20, 21, 22 to 23, right? Of like where you start to get things. And
yeah, Coach says this all the time. To Keontae, to Josh, to Langston, who was injured last year, so was ultimately a freshman. If we brought a bunch of 13-year-olds in here and you played them, how do you think that game would go?
Mm-hmm.
And, Marcus Carr and Timmy Allen, they played 5-6 years in college basketball. They both scored over 2,000 points. And, who they were at 18 isn't who they are at 23 and 24. It's just not the same. They've gone through some battles. So even some of our growth is because us and Kansas, I believe, are the 2 youngest teams in our league. So there's moments where youth learns. But if we can keep the last tournament, the last day on our mind, and we can maintain a growth mindset and not let these setbacks hurt us, but end up being a mirror to us, and they reveal what we need to fix, and then we can get the young guys to fix it faster than maybe the old guys in our league, we can catch up. And so our process this year has been so much about catching our group up to some of the age that we're playing against in our league.
As you're watching a game progress right in front of you, and you have what you look at, and Alvin and others, people are looking at what's going on, Bill Peterson, obviously Coach Drew, and so many that are a part of it. How much of it are you watching during a game that is X's and O's, and how much do you have time, if at all, to watch maybe how players are reacting and body language, positive or negative, or just watching them as they go through the game?
I would say that it's impossible to not see body language. 90% of communication is body language. If you and I were in the same room right now having this conversation, it would be even different than you and I having it in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
Because we could laugh, I could see you smile. And when our guys are going through the game and the body language isn't on 100 and it's on 50, you can tell. And when it's on 0, you can really tell. And it's certainly, my responsibility to watch some of the X's and O's on the offensive end, and then there's Jared and Alvin watch some on the defensive end, and we're all helping Scott. We're working together, and he wants us to be a staff. But we have X and O assignments, but I would say that all 9 of us see real clearly where the body language is at. And when you're coaching 18 to 23-year-olds, sometimes the most powerful thing is their body language and where they're at, and where their belief meter is at, and where their body language meter is at. And, that's where playing home games in our league can be so powerful, because if you're having an off day, you can really fix that thing. And we started slow against West Virginia. I think we were down 16-9, and we just kept fighting, and you're at home, and then the fans help, and you can get the body language thing rolling in your direction. It really helps. So Coach Drew says it all the time. That's why the home crowd advantage matters. But there's almost nothing more important when a person is young than to have them feel good and express it positively in their body language.
How long into John's foray into, I know it was during his rehab and he was just throwing up shots as much as he could to do something, but because he's a just a workhorse all the time. But how long into that did you start to think like, oh, this might actually be something that's a weapon now, that it's not just something he's doing during rehab, it's something we can use in the games?
Yeah, we actually thought that was coming the summer before he got injured. He was committed to making a couple thousand shots, threes a week. And there's portions where I think he was making 500 threes a day. And because of who he is, the work has always been going on behind the scenes. When that comes out in games and comes out with confidence on national TV, you just can never gauge that. But he's been laying the foundation for that since prior to the injury. Did we think he was going to start 4 of 7 from 3 and have it go the way it did right off the bat? No, that's pretty storybook. But now that it's here, it's real. And now that it's happening in games, it's getting even better in practice. And confidence begets confidence. And there's a lot of times we've got a bunch of good shooters on our team that maybe lose confidence for a bit. And then you just surprised but not surprised where the jump shot goes. And you've got to work through that because the best three-point shooters are missing 6 out of 10 times. So you're going to fail more than you succeed. So you have to be able to emotionally handle that. And I think the key for John is not the work he was doing, but now he's over that emotional hump. He can shoot a 3, make it or miss it, and have it not affect his body language at all, which is a real gift for a kid 6'8", 6'9", that plays as hard as he does to add a jump shot like that to his game. And knowing that if he misses, it won't affect him at all anymore. And that's a real powerful thing. And I think even in the next few weeks, it'll only get better because you got to remember, he's not even 5 games into this deal. And because we have this awesome picture of who he was prior to the injury, we just assume, but it's only going to get better for him. He's 2 weeks from another jump in this deal. And so the fact that the jump shot can come along with that, we're really hopeful that in March we'll peak, but that John will peak with us. It's
an amazing story, and it's not over by any means. John, last question. Coach Drew has mentioned that he does not sleep after a loss. When is the latest or earliest in the morning that he has texted you?
Oh, he's pretty respectful. I think he tries to call us and yell at us prior to 1:30. And I think he knows in our relationship that if I can pull off sleeping 12:30 to 4:30, I'll do my film in the morning, that I can't sleep in, and that he's the opposite. So he can't start sleep, but once he does, he can sleep. So I think he knows that by now. But, yeah, 1:30. I'm going to put it at 1:30. I think the NCAA tournament in the bubble, I'm going to put it later than that. But as of late, I think he gets all his feelings out by 1:30 in the morning. So.
Was there any type of comparison, not to the bubble in Indianapolis, don't get me wrong, but is there any type of comparison the way you guys were together despite what happened, that is a camaraderie, bonding type opportunity there in Kansas?
Yeah, 5 days away is always beneficial for the relationships. And this time of year, really what they need more than anything is not time with us. It's time with each other. And there's so many kids right now already daydreaming about putting their name in the portal. And there's so many kids already daydreaming about putting their name in for the draft and blaming their staff. And if only 68 teams are going to make the tournament, then there's almost 300 that don't. And you can see all around the country where teams are kind of quitting on each other. And the kids aren't telling you why they're quitting, but you can tell that they are. And actually what we saw in those 5 days together when we came back to practice, even after the 2 losses, is they actually loved each other and had a really sense of like smile and body language and belief that maybe wouldn't have happened if we didn't spend 5 days in the hotel with them hanging out. So if you understand youth, and it sounds like you do based on that question, it's priceless when your kids don't quit on you in February. And in our culture, where the transfer portal is so powerful, to have them bought in and hanging out with each other like that was a hidden gift in a rough couple days.
That's awesome. Back said to tell Coach Jakus he's the best. Tell him I said hello. I know you guys get to bump into each other coming and going. He was in Kansas as well, and he'll be there tomorrow. So we'll be there tomorrow. Coach, thanks for your time. We never take it for granted. We know you got a lot on your plate with the game tomorrow, but always. And thank you for your time on 365 Sports, and good luck against UT.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys, like I said earlier, and I'll give Mac a hug from you. he's the best AD in the country, and we're thankful for him. And you guys are the best for all you do for us. So thanks again. Have a great evening, and Sic'Em tomorrow.
Yes, sir. That's John Jakus, associate head coach, Baylor men's basketball. When we asked him